Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for coming and hanging with the PodRats. I'm Brayden. Today we got Christian and Alex, and in this episode, we will be discussing episode 4 of The House of the Dragon. But before we get into our review, you can go ahead and follow us on our socials on Twitter at @_PodRats and on Instagram at the PodRats. You can also listen to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Music, and watch us on YouTube. But yeah, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our review of this week's episode, The King of the Narrow Sea.
From my blood come the prince that was promised, and his will be the song of ice and fire.
So, what to talk about first?
There's a lot.
Should we just dive into, the spicy part of this episode, or
I think we should ease into it.
Okay, all right.
Because there was a lot that went down in this episode.
Okay.
There's a lot to talk about.
So first off, let me just start. I think each week has just gotten better and better for me. That could just be my Game of Thrones bias, my Game of Thrones lenses.
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I would also agree.
This episode definitely had a lot going on. It was very reminiscent of like the older seasons of Game of Thrones when it first started, like seasons 1 through 4, where there wasn't like any, action going on, but it was very much delving into people's motivations and playing the game of everything.
For sure. I mean, there was a lot of action, but yeah. I know what you mean.
Oh, yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I guess there was a lot of action in that sense, but...
So this episode kind of started out with Daemon, right? Showing up, walking into the throne room with Krabby the Baddie's sword. And what?
Sorry, I forgot. I just noticed you're still there.
Judging my tower.
My bad. I sorry to interrupt.
This is my throne, Brayden.
My bad.
So yeah, Daemon walked in and he wanted to put Krabby the Baddie's sword on the Iron Throne and basically said that he did everything for the king, right? Mm-hmm. And somehow Viserys embraced him.
Yeah, how many well, I guess we learn at the end of the episode, but Viserys really gives Daemon quite a bit of leash,
He really does, yeah.
I mean, I get it in a way because it's his brother.
Yeah.
But yeah, for someone who, abandoned him and already kind of slapped him in the face once and like took the gold cloaks and ran, it's quite the, dramatic entrance for Daemon to come back and then Viserys just be like, my brother.
I mean, this is the second time he's been banished to the Vale in this season.
Yeah.
You think he's ever going to end up going?
Who knows? But yeah, it's very much it's very clear, and it's been told before in the past 3 episodes, how much family means to the Targaryens because there is so few of them. And Viserys really just loves his brother, and we've talked about that before. He really wants the best for his brother, and he really wants the best situation possible, even though Daemon's not always forthcoming with that, and same for Rhaenyra. But yeah, it just really goes to show how Viserys just really wants things to work out within the Targaryen family, and sometimes it gets the worst of them.
Yeah. Like we said it last time, being a family man isn't being a good king necessarily.
No, yeah. Viserys really, though, this was very much Viserys' episode to shine and just like put his foot down in this, or put his foot line down in the sand. Is that the saying? I guess. Put a line. Draw a line in the sand.
Drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Putting his foot down. It's all the same thing.
Yeah, with a lot of things, with Rhaenyra, with Daemon, and then eventually with Otto that we see. But yeah, what should we get to first? Daemon, Otto, or Rhaenyra?
I feel like we should talk about Daemon.
Okay.
Because Daemon's coming back after this conquest, and when I first see him, I'm like, man, he's really reformed.
Got that fresh cut.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He did have that fresh cut. I did notice that. He was looking pretty nice. But yeah, he comes back and he seems like actually reformed. The crown kind of threw me off at first, but I don't know. He seemed
the king of the narrow sea, brother.
Yeah. It seemed like he had good intentions. But then we learned pretty fast that he's just a bitch.
You should know that Damon never has good intentions. Let's just. I think we've gathered that he's kind of in it for himself and everything he does at this point. He sees some end for himself.
You just had me fooled.
Yeah, he very much only cares about, I feel like, about the game of everything. Of
Definitely.
just trying to get as much power as he can.
Well, it seems like even because then we're getting into the point right after, he comes back, they have that ceremony. We have Daemon and Rhaenyra kind of having that dynamic that they did, that you kind of see all season, where it's a romantic relationship, and Daemon is making advances, and I thought it was honestly, with Rhaenyra, because of how we saw him earlier. Kind of taking her around town, and then he takes her into the city and shows her that play where, it really shows the voice of the people and how they really don't respect a woman king, or a queen, some would call.
Yeah, a synonym for a woman king.
Yeah, and I thought he was just trying to show her, like, hey, you're going to have to take what's yours and earn their respect. Did you guys get that same vibe in the beginning?
No, Daemon and Rhaenyra's relationship's very much based on respect. Like, I very much think Daemon does respect Rhaenyra in her position and what she values. Like, if Rhaenyra was to speak to Daemon about something, he would actually heed her opinion, as opposed to Viserys, where he thinks he's weak. And I don't think it's a coincidence at all that we've only seen, like, Daemon and Rhaenyra speak in High Valyrian, or, like, they're the only ones that have been speaking in High Valyrian. And so it makes it much more intimate. And it's like they have, it's their own language, I guess, but they have this bond that they don't share with Viserys.
Yeah, I see it too, though, because the way that they interact is very different from the way that she interacts with her aunt, right? The queen who never was. And, you see that they have a special relationship. So I definitely, I get, why Rhaenyra kind of follows him and is, like, following that path. And I think it might be kind of that older, male figure, younger female, kind of predatory vibe too. Honestly, though, because then you see him take her down into the brothels. This is like her first experience in the city, and he, starts, getting her in the mood, walking by all the babes.
I do think that this was very much a Daemon has always kind of on the DL had a thing for 100%. And he's just now back in a spot where he felt like, I guess it was the right time to maybe take her out on the town, like he finally felt that their relationship had reached that point of maybe comfortability to where she would actually trust him, go with him, and maybe even be intimate with him. Which also, since we're talking about Daemon, is this man insecure? In episode 1 with
whenever he couldn't get his dick hard. With the first prostitute.
He couldn't get it up. And this time he came in with some intentions, but
do you think he's embarrassed and that's why he didn't go through with it with Rhaenyra, or do you think that he was being a bitch and just wanted to put her in a position where she would be soiled? Like, do you think he knew that someone was watching?
Dude, it's either that or he exerts big dick energy but actually has erectile dysfunction. So
I think it could be a bit of both going on. I feel like it's very much layered. Like, I do think Daemon actually does desire Rhaenyra. I feel like it's been alluded maybe in tiny little pieces in past episodes, like with Daemon giving her necklace, and then Rhaenyra obviously very much she was still wearing it after all these years. That did happen a while ago. Daemon represents everything that Rhaenyra doesn't have in her life right now. Like, he's the polar opposite of Viserys. And then when she is getting courted by all those lords, you have old guys, then you have 13-year-olds, and Daemon's this hot, sexy dude who's confident or appearing to be confident with a fresh cut. So Daemon definitely has an advantage both over age, like how you mentioned, Alex, however it might be predatory. But I feel like he also does know that Rhaenyra respects and admires how powerful he comes off to be.
See, because when I first watched this, I immediately was like, this is a power grab. Like, whenever he walks away, I never even thought about him just not being able to get it up.
I mean, it's either that or he just literally maybe had a humane moment where he realized that what he's doing may have not been the right thing to do. But who knows?
Because it was also never confirmed if they had sex, right?
Well, I mean, we saw the whole thing. It didn't appear they did.
Yeah,
I
because
don't
obviously,
think they
like
did.
with Kristen, when she goes back,
Yes.
they have sex.
Yeah. I mean, she gets... We don't need to describe this. No. But she
Why
gets
not?
turned around, but his pants are still up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They weren't doing the deed.
Join the PodRats as we dissect the sex scene.
You know, speaking of hot, sexy sex scenes, what about Viserys?
Okay. All right.
Dude, it's honestly pitiful watching Viserys. Like, okay, this is obviously a big change in subject, but like when Alicent, you know, goes into his chambers and it looks like she just hates it, man.
I think everyone can sympathize with Alicent here, though, because, I mean, she, even at the beginning of this episode with Rhaenyra, she kind of misses them talking and she misses them being close. And in a way, like throughout this episode, you see it kind of develop. She kind of is jealous almost of the fact that Rhaenyra is able to go out on the town. And I mean, she may be critical of her, but I think at the same time, there is a bit of jealousy there because while Rhaenyra is out on the town doing her thing, having a good time, she's forced to be laying in bed.
Well, Rhaenyra
With
also got
Viserys.
to choose her fate, and
Exactly.
Alicent got stuck with what Otto wanted for her.
Exactly.
Yeah, she had no control over
Yes.
that
Right.
situation and
Yeah,
no
so-
agency.
I definitely agree though. I think Alicent envies that freedom that Rhaenyra has as princess.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, there's a big part of this episode that does discuss the contrast between the positions of Alicent and Rhaenyra, and Alicent does have a conversation with Rhaenyra about that, where maybe it's not so bad that you get to choose who you're going to marry. Alicent never had that choice. Otto just put her in the position where to seduce Viserys, and it's just cool seeing the different contrasting things. And yeah, you're right, Alicent. There's like some jealousy there, and she wishes that she had more agency over her life, like Rhaenyra does.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think that's another reason that Alicent's so critical of her is because she's just kind of mad that Rhaenyra is complaining about it because she wishes she had that, you know?
Yeah, like she definitely wishes she could have. I don't think she's jealous or critical of the fact that she might have had sex with Daemon at all, to be honest. Like, I think she's more jealous and critical of the fact that she was able to go out to King's Landing and just have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because throughout the shots of Rhaenyra going to King's Landing, we're seen with Alicent having sex with a man with a bunch of legions all over his back.
I wouldn't call it sex, but yes.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, I guess you're right.
But yeah, Patty Considine came out this week, the actor who plays Viserys, and confirmed that Viserys does have leprosy. So, fun fact.
So fun. Such a fun fact.
Yeah, we love fun
Very-
facts on this
Very fun part
podcast.
of this episode. I just thought about something too when this is going back to the Daemon relationship. So remember Daemon's prostitute wife that he was holding up in Dragonstone?
Massaria?
Yeah. Is that Massaria?
Yeah.
He is.
Why didn't he get her pregnant? Wasn't there a whole thing about that where he wasn't marrying her, couldn't give her a baby?
That was a lie. That was all a lie.
It was a lie, but remember how Daemon, his inability to baby
She can't
make?
have kids.
Oh, because she's a...
Well, she said that she
Prostitute.
prevented herself from even ever being in that
okay.
position. So she can't get pregnant
Gotcha.
even if Daemon could get
All
her
right.
pregnant.
So before the podcast, we were comparing Massaria to Varys from Game of Thrones. Varys doesn't have balls. Massaria can't have kids. They're both spiders, and they both have little kid messengers running around. Very,
Yeah.
very similar.
Massaria doesn't have balls, confirmed. Yeah. No, but yeah, we do learn that sorry. We do learn that Massaria has been dealing throughout the years. We haven't seen her. We didn't see her in the last episode, I don't think, did we?
No.
No. So yeah, we've learned throughout from the time that we saw her at Dragonstone to now that she might have her own little spy network, like Varys. She might have this Master of Whispers. I think that's what it was called. But yeah, that's interesting how she might be our next Varys. We'll see how that comes into play. It's getting more complicated. Everything is
You
getting
say
more
next
complicated.
Varys.
You're right. Yeah.
Varys doesn't exist.
It's the first Varys, I guess.
It's true. She
Yeah.
may have started
Yeah.
the Master of Whispers
You're right.
with Otto Hightower.
Yeah, I was wondering, there could be a couple things at play there. Otto might have been employing Massaria for the last couple years, or maybe just that messenger, the White Worm. I don't know if it's confirmed if Massaria is the White Worm,
It's
or
either
if
that or
there's
it was
something
the kid
else.
or something, but it's probably her, if I
Yeah.
had to guess. And she has full reason to join Otto on this because if Damon did lie about their marriage and all that, and if he ever did anything bad to her, she has full reason to resent him and want to get back at him. So
Yeah, this gives her some leverage.
definitely.
Yeah. And I was curious because we do see Damon the night after with Massaria, the night after he went to the brothel with Rhaenyra with Massaria. I'm curious if Damon, I don't know if he's smart enough for any of this, but I'm curious if Damon knew that there would be someone spying and that they would take it to Otto and then Otto would take that message to the king. Not sure if Damon's that smart. Not sure, but I guess
Based
we'll
on
find out.
his irrational actions, it seemed of that night, being drunk and doing what he did and then leaving her all by herself. I don't feel like he had any idea. I don't think it was set up by him at all.
Damon, I feel like you're not giving enough credit. I feel like he's a bit more calculated than that because he did take Rhaenyra to the brothel for a reason, and it was, even if he was going to have sex with her or not, it was so people could see them out together, and so that Rhaenyra, there might be rumors that Rhaenyra is tarnished, tainted, not innocent anymore, so that he might be able to take Rhaenyra as wife when Viserys confronts him about it.
Maybe you might be right there.
But yeah, I might be giving Damon too much credit there.
I don't know. I mean, he didn't seem shocked when Viserys came in and knew about it. Really?
No, and he never denied having sex with her, which he didn't. So
See,
He
that's-
didn't, but he didn't say he didn't, which is
Yeah.
weird.
That's what made me think that he wanted to get caught. Like like how you said, this was calculated.
You
This was
guys
a
might be
calculated
onto something
plan.
here. I didn't think about it like that, but
well, that's why he made Rhaenyra take the disguise off for a reason. Take the little beanie off, so they could see the blonde hair.
so maybe Massaria is actually working for Damon,
Mm-hmm.
but using Otto against.
They set up Otto.
They set up Otto. That's what they did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, possibly. It might.
Possibly, yeah.
It might be
Yeah.
that, or it might be Otto just messed up. But
Well, 'cause
It's a
speaking
speculation.
Damon and Otto hate each other anyways.
right, and Damon wants nothing more than Otto to be gone, and Otto wants nothing more than Damon to be gone.
True.
Right.
But talking a little bit more about Otto, he does get the boot this week
Thank
as Hand of the
God.
King.
Piece of shit.
And we did talk about it actually last week. We talked about Otto possibly showing his hand a little bit too much to Viserys when he suggests that Rhaenyra and 2-year-old Aegon get betrothed.
Yeah.
And Viserys just laughs at that. But Viserys is very much seeing Otto's true motivations as he explains to him. And that might be Otto's blunder. I before this episode, thought Otto to be more like a Littlefinger, but I don't think he's as smart.
He's
Yeah.
not as smart.
No.
I think that he definitely pushed it too far when he exposed Rhaenyra for being out. But again, if that was calculated by Damon, then props to him because he knew that something like that would probably get to Otto and eat at him, and he'd have to tell the king. And I mean, if you're Otto in that situation, do you tell the king?
Yes. See, I think that Otto's fatal mistake here was not telling the king. It was him planting Alicent. Because as soon as Viserys like connects all the dots that, oh my god, my wife died, and then he like, and now I'm marrying his daughter, like it doesn't take a genius, you know. And I was glad to see Viserys finally, you know, grow some balls here and stand up to Rhaenyra, Daemon, and Otto all in one episode.
Yeah.
You know, and especially to Otto, he says it how it is. You know, he admits that he was blindsided. And now he's like, fuck you, Otto.
Do you think that before Rhaenyra brought it to Viserys' attention, do you think he had any suspicion at all?
Yeah, I mean, he points it out when Otto tells him about the spy that saw Rhaenyra go to the brothel. I mean, he does point out that he does have alternative motivations rather than just advising the king. I do think, though, that while Rhaenyra does suggest that Otto be gone as Hand of the King, and maybe Viserys even agrees, I do think that might be just a bit of manipulation on Rhaenyra's part of, well, you want me to do this, well, then you have to do that type thing. So it could be a little bit of both, where I do think Viserys does understand, even after Rhaenyra brings up that Otto should be gone, that he does understand that, yeah, even though he does at times give me good advice on how to rule the kingdom, that he probably at some points is not going to give me the best advice in favor of his daughter and his grandson.
Right. He's a little too close, some would say.
Right. It might end up working for him in the end. Even though he's getting booted, he still has a son who still could be heir and who the people still support, like how we saw
That's true.
in that play.
So like in that conversation that Viserys and Rhaenyra were having, even though like he did take Rhaenyra's advice for, you know, as far as getting rid of Otto, he didn't necessarily believe her as far as saying she did not do the deed with Daemon, because in the final scene, the Maester brings in the special concoction of Plan B.
The Westerosi Plan B.
Yeah.
And I think that goes to show that Viserys doesn't necessarily care about the truth, whether or not Rhaenyra did lose her maidenhood or not.
It's all about the image.
Right.
I mean, this is what he was saying too. This was his like primary message, right? Was it doesn't matter what the truth is, it's the optics. It's how you're perceived by your people, which is kind of the theme of this whole episode. You know, is Rhaenyra will never be valued as a queen. You know, Daemon, you know, kind of being viewed as like a conqueror, and then all of a sudden he's actually just a piece of shit. Like everything in this episode, you know, Viserys is kind of keeping everything together, and with Rhaenyra sleeping with Daemon, it would just throw, you know, whether or not it's serious, it's real. He doesn't care anymore. He's doing his duty as king, and kind of, you know, has to take the worst case in all scenarios.
Right. Like not take anything at face value.
Right.
Because he's like, well, maybe if I do believe you, here's this just in case.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, a lot of what Daemon's doing in this episode is trying to show Rhaenyra that they should get married. By taking her to the play and by showing her that the realm does not love her on her own. There needs to be a male heir. He's kind of almost implying, by the end of the episode, we learn that he wants to marry her. It's almost like in that moment, he's kind of implying that she needs to marry him to be able to be perceived well as queen.
Well, and to carry on that Targaryen blood, you know, and like it's for him, he's like, he can really provide a compelling argument there because the people would respect him. He just had this huge victory. He comes back. Everyone's loving him. Like, Rhaenyra, you need someone like me to guide you, you know, like you can be queen, go do what you want. I will rule, kind of, you know, and that dynamic, I think he really tries to play hard on Rhaenyra and see if she'll bite.
And the realm may not like her on her own, but them together, maybe, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think, you know who's even tastier? Sir Criston Cole.
Man,
that's a king.
That was a spicy scene.
Man, I can't believe we haven't even mentioned Criston Cole until yet.
Nope.
Man, that poor guy.
I honestly, I felt really bad for him that whole time, that whole scene.
He's gonna die,
I did
man.
too. That's a shitty spot she put him in.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where Kristen does genuinely care about Rhaenyra, and he respects her for having him chosen to the Kingsguard. And that whole scene is very much just them losing their innocence. And with the cloak, the cloak's white. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And he's taking it off. But it's very much, it might be mutual, but it also might be, well, if I'm refusing Rhaenyra, what kind of position does that put me in?
Right. But by accepting Rhaenyra, look at the position he's in now. If anybody finds out about this shit, he's fucking dead.
He's like, yeah, I fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna see a dead Christian Cole.
Possibly.
I just hope no one finds out about it. I love that man. I feel so bad for him.
He's too handsome to exist in this universe.
She hit him with the, haha, I got your hat. Come and get it. I'm naked. Hee hee.
Yeah. that sums it up. But yeah, you think they might be having this whole intimate scene, but like he doesn't know that he's a rebound, man.
No, he doesn't.
Poor guy.
It really made me sad.
Just being used.
And at the end, when he opens the door for her to go into Viserys' chambers and he sees how stressed out Rhaenyra is, I'm sure that in the back of his mind, he's like, does somebody know what happened with us kind of thing,
Right. They're always going to have that thing looming over them. It's similar to like, I guess not as severe, but possibly just as severe as Cersei and Jaime. Yeah, so it's kind of similar, although it's not incest, but it's still a member of the Kingsguard with a member of the royal family.
Yeah. Except Kristen Cole doesn't have the Jaime Lannister blood. So.
No, he does not have that position.
No. And I don't know that Daemon or Viserys will take that very well.
If they find out.
Right.
This could be similar to a Cersei and Jaime thing where we as an audience know, but some people, while it might be rumored, no one actually knows for multiple seasons.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, I think that kind of wraps up our spicy episode here. I'm not sure where we're going to go from here. I know that it was confirmed that next week's episode will be Millie Alcock and Emily Carey's last episode on the show. I guess we're going to get too far into the time jumps and they will no longer pass for their respective ages. So sad to see them go.
may they rest in peace without actually passing away.
Yes.
I'm very scared. I feel like they'll handle it well. I feel like there's going to be a time when it will make sense hold on. I feel like going forward, the actor changes are going to make sense as far as the positions that these characters are in, where a younger Rhaenyra or a younger Alicent, or viewing them as younger, might not work as well. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm hoping for anyway, as far as when we get the actor changes, because everyone does love Millie Alcock as Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
But I just feel moving forward that it's going to make sense as they get older.
Yeah. Well, we're sad to see them go, but I guess George R.R. Martin wanted it to be time for us to move on. So
cherish it while you have it.
Moving on from Rhaenyra to Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
Tear will fall.
All right. Well, that being said, we'll be back next week with episode 5 of House of the Dragon. Until then, put yourself first and take care of each other. Bye, guys.
See ya.
Bye, guys.